I am not flexible enough for yoga. Well, I'm here to bust that myth. My name is Todd. I'm here at Native Yoga Center. I have been teaching yoga for like over 26 years now, and I've heard that so many times throughout my teaching journey, practicing journey. And I want to let you know that is absolutely not true. It is either everybody can practice yoga or absolutely nobody can practice yoga for that statement to be true, that I can't practice yoga. Because if you've been looking at people who are super flexible, doing super flexible things and thinking that that is yoga, that's where the problem lays. What we need to do, what you can do, what I'm trying to do is understand that yoga is not just about the depth that you are taking a posture to. Yoga is about union and taking the mind and the body, or effort and relaxation, and blending them into a perfect balance or union. And so the one pose I want to pick apart today is the one that I have on the thumbnail for this video, which is called Malasana. It requires a lot of flexion in the hips, flexibility in our ability to fold the body forward. It requires flexion in the knees, the ability to bend the knees all of the way. And it also, to do this version of it, to have the heels on the floor, it requires a lot of dorsiflexibility, meaning your ankles can dorsiflex deep. So you're feeling like, I can't do that. You watch someone squat down, you look at it, you say, I can't do that, because your body right now is unable to go that far. But are you able to sit in a chair? If the answer is yes, well, then you can practice yoga. It is literally that simple. And this is one of the best ways to progress into the flexibility part of yoga. Yoga is the exact balance of flexibility and strength. Do you look at someone who's lifting a 5-pound weight and say, I can't do weightlifting? But if you watch someone lift 5,000 or whatever, 300 pounds above their head, you might look at that and say, I can't weightlift. But you can pick up a 5-pound weight and you can bend your elbow if you have the use of your arm and your muscles are working. So the idea here is that you can lift weight, you can do yoga, you can improve your flexibility, you can improve your strength, and you can do flexibility and strength together while you practice yoga. Now, just in relation to this particular pose, Malasana, a couple of key ways to get into it is just to sit in a chair with your feet turned out the way that they'll be when you land in the Malasana, and to just angle the legs in the position that you're going to set them up for later, to put your elbows down onto your knees and start to flex and extend your spine. Now, what will happen when we go into Malasana is you're going to have more of a flexion position to start, and you're eventually going to be able to build the ability to extend your spine. So what that translates to, if I turn sideways so you can see, is that typically when we come down into Malasana, our backs will do a rounding position. And then if we're able to establish our elbows against our knees, we can practice increasing the anterior tilt of our pelvis, which equals hip flexion. And you can do a little bit of spinal extension. So notice the difference between flexion, extension. Okay, so from a chair's perspective, now you are in Malasana. Now the next big question is, what constitutes yoga? If I'm sitting here holding my attention steady on a focal point, I'll put the drishti point right on the camera. If I'm holding my attention really steady on one point and I'm breathing in and out through my nose, and I'm able to sustain my awareness at a single place and to observe the breath moving in the body, I am moving a little closer into a, quote, state of yoga, a state of union, a state of balance, a state of non-duality. Non-duality referencing the fact that we have everything in our world as black, white, red, blue, hot, cold, up, down, opposites, opposing forces, seemingly opposing forces. But as we practice yoga, we find The opposition is actually supporting the other duality. Non-duality is when both sides become one, holistic, non-dual. So that's what I try to do in yoga, is create non-duality, a non-duality practice in relation to philosophy. So now it's a matter of, how do I apply the non-dualistic thinking into my yoga posture? So in that respect, I just keep an open mind. So having an open mind, and also skepticism, be having a critical mind, open-minded and critical. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of flexion and extension and try to bring our elbows down to the thighs. And you do extension and flexion here, flexion, extension. Now at some point, you're going to be able to get your elbows down onto your legs, and you'll be ready for the next challenge. Now the next challenge involves attempting to go from the standing position to be able to touch down to the floor. So what we're going to do here is you have your feet turned out and you just try to touch the floor. If it's hard for you to touch the floor, take two props, like two blocks that can make that a little bit closer, and try to touch down the blocks and start working the same facet, flexion and extension. Side view, flexion, extension. So you have your feet turned out and you start working. If that's too low, take the chair. So the idea, figure out, where are you able to go? We want to find where your edge is. It doesn't matter how flexible or not you are. Start applying these concepts to whatever level of flexibility you have. And as a beginner, I know it looks really intimidating, because a lot of the yoga postures seem to just hyper emphasize flexibility. But it's just a false way. I don't want to say a false way of seeing. It's like a little bit of an illusion. It's like a veil of illusion over the real practice. All right, good. So you can see I'm just making those sort of movements, so that now what will happen is when you go to touch your hands to the floor, you notice that if you're going to go to bend your knees, your heels are going to come up. And the big challenge that we start to notice is that the knees may not bend like that yet. So one of the best ways to start to work on knee bendability is to come down onto the ground, point your feet. And we want to try in child's pose, if you bring your elbows down, we want to try to get our hips all the way to our heels and build the ability to sit with full pressure. If you are unable to sit like this, there's probably something going on with the knees or the ankles, and that will require us to work a little bit more uniquely. So you might need to come down like this and do just a very simple bending, and do this every day for about 4 or 5 minutes every day. And then before you know it, when you go to come down here, your heels will lift, but you'll be able to bend the knees. And then the next big part of the equation is being able to get your heels down to the floor. So what you can see is I'm breaking down the movements joint by joint, and we need to work joint by joint to be able to then put 3 different joints into a deep range of motion. So we focused on the hip flexion ability through the movement of the extension and flexion of the spine. We're focusing on the knee and, well, in this case, plantar flexion ability of the ankles. And the next thing we need to focus on is the dorsiflexion ability of our ankles. And a lot of this relies on the calf muscle that comes down here, gastrocnemius soleus muscle, attaching to the Achilles tendon, attaching to the calcaneus, the heel bone. And so a good way to do this is just to start put pressure down. Again, this requires that I have my knee bendability, but we can access that without knee bendability in a downward facing dog. Or another way we can do it is on our hands and knees. You curl your back toes under and you press your heel back. So this is also a good way to work the ankle mobility. Now we've established the 3 main joints that we're attempting to open: hips, knees, and ankles. We start with a chair and we build up a little block tower. Here I picked 3 blocks. And every day, you got to practice this a little bit every day. I'm going to just start to move my angle down a little bit. And I have 3 blocks. I go down to 2 blocks. You go from 2 blocks. After getting comfortable in that, you're going to stretch and challenge yourself a little bit to eventually get down to 1 block. And then it's about a fulcrum forward to be able to have your hips come off the block and have full pressure on your feet. So I just wanted to break down one pose that a lot of people we've lost ability to do, the squat position. And this position is one of the main positions for maintaining long-term mobility, health, and longevity in our joints, and the ability to get up and down off the floor. This is a really key posture. And then tackling this concept that I am not flexible enough to do yoga, which I can't tell you how many times I hear that. It almost cracks me up at this point. It's just like, how did we get it so wrong? And I don't know what that is in our culture, but I think the reason personally is that we separated the yoga asana out of the spiritual traditions that the yoga initiated from, and it became a materialistic pursuit, purely with the physical body, all about getting the body to look like that other body. It's almost like a competitive thing too, like keeping up with the Joneses. Wow, they have that house, I got to get a bigger house. Like, it's a weird mentality that happened in our culture, I think, where we've gotten to this point where we think, I can't do that, I'm not flexible enough. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, I'm fully aware of injury that has happened in the body. And so that's another reason why it's important to not gauge success in yoga according to the level of depth that we're able to achieve with the body, because the body's going to come and go. But when you start working with consciousness, that continues on. It depends on what you believe. But as you work with consciousness, we find this body is just the body. We moved into the body. We borrow the body. We eventually aren't going to be in the body anymore. So it's not all about the body, but working with the body is a great way to find stability and get grounded. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send them my way. My email is at info@nativeyogacenter.com. Website nativeyogacenter.com. I hope that helps. And thank you so much. Have a great day.